Hello and welcome to the SpinCycle podcast. I'm your host Charles, and as always I'll be joined by Sid, and maybe sometimes a third opinion too. In this show we try to wash away rhetoric and narrative to find just the core nuggets of truth. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Let's jump into our first topic then.
Let's jump into our first topic. Great. So you should see, should be The Guardian up on your screen. So the headline for this is Nerves Rise Over AFD Threat as State Elections in Eastern Germany Begin. So basically, right, I went through it a bit, and we've got their manifesto, which we'll have a little look at in a minute. But it's a summary of their beliefs, right? Is very, very anti-Islamic, like incredibly anti-Islamic views. And anti-immigration, strong anti-immigration. And now, a new term I actually came across is welfare chauvinist. Now, do you know what that means at all?
See, if I wasn't recording my screen, I'd quickly Google it and pretend I do. Go on.
So it's a bit of a surprise one for me, because I had no idea either. I've never heard of it before. It's welfare, but only for natives. So that shows you the extent of anti-immigration they are. They believe in a strong welfare state, but only for native Germans. Yeah. So that's quite, in itself, even without explaining it, just quite a worrying phrasing, sentences, all of that. So yeah, and then also, so the main catch-all phrase, another phrase that I haven't heard of, and again, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but Völkisch nationalism. Now, that is a German ethnic nationalist belief system. So, but what's interesting is ethnic is the word used there.
That's the issue at the moment in modern politics. I've always wanted to say that ethnicity and ethnic conflicts don't... it means different things in American eyes compared to the European eyes, because it's very, very different. I'm not going to say, I'm pro-Europe ethnic conflict and I'm anti-American ethnic conflict. I'm not going to say that, obviously, clearly. But ethnicity actually has very different, I want to say philosophical meaning to the Europeans more than we don't learn about it, because why would we want to learn about that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's really worrying, because then that conversation isn't even delving into immigration, because realistically, ethnic can be extended to, I know you've lived here for 2 generations, but your parents came from Africa, so you're not German, kind of thing. And I think what's really worrying is, obviously, the Nazi Party, the kind of core thing of it was a mono-ethnic state, is what they wanted to achieve. So that's, do you know what I mean? To have that in Germany as well is really worrying.
Well, what I was thinking about was the welfare thing, where if you get far right enough, you do end up, this is called horseshoe theory, isn't it? Where on the right now you'd see, they tend to be more anti-welfare, but you get far enough, actually we're pro-welfare now. Or is it that they're so European that their far right is that we only want one welfare state, whereas the left want 3 different welfare states actually.
But if you remember, the Nazi Party was the National Socialist
Party,
the Socialist Party. That fascism does have a lot in socialism, because realistically, you've got capitalism or socialism, and then you've got authoritarianism or liberal. Either way. Right, so fascism is socialism authoritarian, left-wing authoritarian. They're most fascist states aren't very pro-free markets. They're very against free markets.
See, if you were to do just a 2-axis political thing, then actually you'd put Nazi Germany probably at the centre, but highly authoritarian, because there's so many different beliefs within it. But of course, it is it came out of disillusionment from socialism. I believe it came out originally out of Italy. I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Where originally came out of Italy. Yeah, it has roots in Italy. Where they went, this doesn't matter. They went more individualist, or individualist socialism. Well, that's where it comes from. And it's very complicated. Nazism, very complicated.
I think it's important for us to explain as well that because we're going to get viewers from all around the world, right? And it's weird in Europe because I think a lot of these views are a lot more okay elsewhere, a lot more deemed kind of socially acceptable. But in Europe, it is weird because we did have like a huge period of fascism, because we forget, like, before World War II, almost every country had a massive fascist party. I mean, England had a huge fascist party that was gaining popularity. Europe was rife with fascism, and that is what led to the Nazis. It's what led to World War II. So we have a lot of, like, I don't know, we've had to do a lot of things like Germany. It's illegal to have swastikas and stuff like that. It's illegal to name your child like Adolf in Germany and stuff like that. They use a lot of these
that's just
measures.
like a child protective services, though. Let's be honest, that's the reason why.
Yeah.
No one wants to be called.
But
it's like no one now is going to call himself like Adolf fucking Epstein. You know what I mean?
And it's really, really weird though, because like when I went to Berlin like 5 years ago now, but I went there and there was I did like a walking tour of the city, and we went to kind of go see Hitler's bunker. Now I say kind of because in order for it not to be a memorial, they built a car park over it.
Yeah.
So they just filled it all in with tarmac. And the tour guide was like, it is a shame because that is quite a crucial bit of history.
Yeah.
But also he was like, but I completely get the need to not memorialize. And it's so difficult conversations about what statues should we keep, all of this. When are we preserving history, and when are we, making these horrible figures into like heroes,
London still has a Karl Marx statue.
Do we?
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Wow.
And I mean, that he's Karl Marx. Yeah, obviously, ideas weren't the best. I say like that, keep it lightly, because I know there'll probably be some people who support her. Your fucking choice, your loss if you agree with Hungry Santa. But like you could probably track that. You could probably very easily make a sort of line going from this guy's ideas, then resulted in this many millions of deaths. But we're not there. Like people still to this day will memorialise quite a few communist stuff, but obviously no one really memorialises Hitler, and no one really should. But it should be something. Should be a sobering thing.
Do, but
It
yeah,
should be something like keeping Auschwitz. Like people, like, I remember a mate of ours went to Auschwitz for like his birthday. Went there just to breathe that up into shit birthday, to be honest. But like went there just to sort of take it in. This is what the lengths of human depravity can get us to.
Yeah. I've never personally been to a concentration camp, but my partner has, and they said it was horrifying. Really important to go see, but really harrowing. Yeah.
Because every single person's capable of it.
Yeah. I think that's the really worrying bit. I mean, so there's an experiment, a social experiment done. It's very famous. You might have heard of it. It's where basically they're told to zap a person, right? And it starts off really, really low. And they're told to do it. Now the person doesn't actually get zapped, right? It's an actor on the other side who just goes up, like that, right?
Yeah.
And the people in charge keep telling them to up the amount of electricity they're using. Volts. And the screaming from the other person gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the amount of contestants that did it to the point of like an electric shock that would kill a human is horrifying. The amount that ended up going through with it purely because they were being told to.
Yeah.
And the people were like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about them. Just keep doing it. It's shocking.
Quite a lot of people don't think of themselves. They think, oh yeah, I'm in this lab or whatever, so they're clearly everything's be fine and safe. So if I could just follow their commands, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But you need to stop and think. Every single thing I do, I stop and think and realise, is what I'm doing right?
Yeah.
Not
really
every time ever, but I try my best.
Yeah. But anyway, let's bringing it back to the far right parties. I think what's worrying about the AFD, if you want to go on to the manifesto, is a lot of it sounds really, really good. It sounds
Democracy and core
really
values sounds great.
reasonable. But
National security, yep. Foreign
if you
security.
read it, there's bits that are so worrying. There's some awful phrases in there. I can't remember it, but I read through it and I just thought, like, I kind of get what you're saying, but it's icky. It's really icky. Possibly the biggest one is the euro. They want to abandon the euro, which Germany abandoning the euro would basically mean the euro was over.
Yes.
So I don't know what your views are on the euro and stuff, but
I can understand that the euro is kind of neat because you can go to all these different countries and not have to get changed, and every single time you get changed out, you get swindled. Let's be honest, you always get swindled.
Yeah.
Like, what's it? At the moment, money is fucking just numbers. At the moment, and when I went to Chile, I had to fucking pay a fee to change money on my bank card. Like, that money doesn't exist on my bank card, and you're telling me, oh, this imaginary number, there's a fee to change from this imaginary to a different imaginary number, and it's like that really does matter. Like, you're stupid. You're really stupid for that. What does the euro actually stand for? I think it's just a medium of exchange. If you want to change your medium of exchange back to, was it francs they had? That's France, isn't it?
Yeah, francs.
Oh.
No, it's francs.
Okay, I thought it was France that had francs. Maybe both of them had two different types of francs.
I might be wrong.
Go for it. It will probably cause a lot of economic downturn for the EU. I'm not too sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because the EU could probably do with a kick up its ass, I'd say.
Well, so a lot of what they were talking about is how we need to step back from the EU, or Germany. When I'm saying we, I mean Germany.
I can't remember who it was, but I remember some political commentator was like, so basically, Germany lost World War II. Then after it, in the wake of it, it's like, all right, guys, I know we couldn't conquer the entirety of Europe, so how about we all sort of join hands together? But like, we'll run it though. We'll run it, but we all join together. I kind of understand. I don't see why Germany wants to leave the EU.
That is possibly the worst interpretation of the EU fucking ever.
It's an awful take, but I think it's funny though.
I was a strong Remainer, and I still am. I think the EU is a beautiful thing. I think its potential is amazing.
Been to Benidorm, that's part of the EU. Ugh.
It is part of the EU.
Ugh.
I've been to fucking Stoke-on-Trent. That's not part of the EU.
Oh god, we haven't got a good example either. We've got fucking Smething Birmingham. Jesus Christ.
I go to uni at Southampton. Okay, there are examples of bad places outside the EU.
Southampton's nice. What the fuck are you on about?
It's got a lot of character. It's got a lot of character, but
okay, we'll agree to that.
Some rough bits. There are some rough bits.
It is a poor argument on that. Anyway, back to the Euro stuff. Do you think what negatives will happen if Germany was to divest from the Euro?
Oof. I mean, we're talking about, like, the Euro would probably be dropped almost everywhere. Now, a lot of what the Euro does do is it can help poorer regions. So poorer countries that do qualify to meet the Euro then benefit from being perceived as a strong currency, even when they're not. Like places like Greece and stuff like that. And also, I think the most important. So I actually think, as an economist, that the Euro is a bad economic move for your own country. It gives you less power over your own financial policies. There's a lot of issues about it with all that stuff, right? But I think one thing that it really does do is it creates a sense of unity, and it creates trade does go up with something like that. It is so much easier to trade if you don't have to worry about exchange rates. As you just said, like, exchange rates, obviously on a personal level, you can get swindled by, like, the banks that are like, we're going to take
you will
5%. Yeah, you will. But even on like a kind of macroeconomics point, you still can get a bit screwed over by it when you have differences in exchange rates, when currencies go up and down, how expensive your stuff is changes. And a lot of that becomes a lot more stable with the Euro. for other countries outside the euro, but obviously within the euro, you have no issues. Germany doesn't have to worry about their exports to France at the moment, how expensive that is relatively because of the exchange rate. Because there's no exchange rate, you know?
Yeah, I completely understand that. I feel I think also that because the euro is used by so many, it does help it. It does help protect it from mass inflation. But the issue is, if another country who uses the euro does such a big fuck up and causes inflation, that will affect all of those member countries.
True. That is what I mean. It becomes a lot more difficult to have monetary policy for yourself. Like what interest rates should you set and stuff like that become confusing. And you do see stuff like the credit crunch that happened in the 2000s, all because of the euro. So not all because, but largely propped up by the existence of the euro.
I can say.
Anyway, let's get back to the core of the topic, really, which for me was about why the far right is rising. So they're growing in popularity. I mean, you've got the Reform Party in the UK, you've got the Swiss People's Party in Switzerland, you've got Brothers of Italy in Italy, you've got Fidesz, I don't know how to pronounce it, but in Hungary, you've got the Finns Party in Finland. These are all far right parties. I believe all of them but Reform are the party in power. Italy has a far right government. So does Switzerland. So does Hungary. So does Finland.
I've got to quickly ask you. Far right according to who is my question? Like, who is there an objective person who's like, yes, I define exactly the centre? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess we kind of. To be fair, yeah, that's a good point, but there is a general consensus that that there is a centre, there is a far right, there is a far left. Far right is characterised, as I said, by a lot of nationalistic views, mainly. I don't like to call just every populist far right. I don't think that's true, but nationalism is far right. Extreme nationalism is definitely far right.
But you'd be willing to concede that some form of nationalism is always important for a country, though, of course.
Yeah, I think I would generally agree that I like patriotism. I'm quite a patriotic person myself. But I don't generally like the thoughts behind nationalism. I don't like the othering that happens. And I think a lot of the problem with nationalism. So I think it's just a lot of it is it's getting countries are struggling. Europe's struggling right now, right? Low growth, and that Germany is not doing well in terms of economic growth, wage growth, stuff like that. And it's easy to blame immigrants and it's easy to blame different cultures, but that isn't the answer. The answer to growth isn't we need to make sure there are less mosques. That isn't how you achieve economic prosperity, Yeah,
I can very much agree with that. But I'm going to say, so looking at this, I can understand very easily why people are attracted to these parties. Because, I mean, who's going to object to democracy and core values? That's very important to everyone. Everyone's always talking about Europe and the euro. It's always been important to Germany. National security, national strength, that sort of stuff. Key to the survival of a country. And look, even here, there's a far right party, but they're talking about free the labour markets from unnecessary restrictions. I mean, you can see there's quite a what's it called, a capitalist thing, but it makes sense always. Sometimes there's a bit too much like paperwork involved. Retain minimum wage, end financial discrimination of families, make work worthwhile by enabling basic income, stuff like that. These are like, it don't sound far right to me.
Yeah. No, a lot of them don't initially. I think it is really worrying a lot of the sentiment though, like the language they use, a lot of their reasoning is I find really worrying. For why we need certain things, and just I think so. I would say the far right's rising, right, because neoliberalism is struggling to deliver at the moment.
Yes.
This decade so far has not been a good decade for neoliberalism, and the last one wasn't either.
No.
And that leads to discontent. And I think this is funny because this is what Starmer said in a speech the other day. But he basically said that the centre doing politics the right way and actually solving issues is difficult and it's unlikable, right? You have to balance budgets. You have to invest. There's no quick fixes. Starmer's stood up here and been like, basically, he's already saying, I'm not going to be able to fix everything in 5 years. It's going to be slow, it's going to be hard, and you're going to see a small amount of results. And
Nothing
you compare
that,
but you compare that with then a populist narrative of someone goes, trust me, lads, I'm going to fix everything, right? It's super easy. We need to do these core steps and then it will all be fixed. It's really, really difficult not to buy into that.
Yeah, very easily. You haven't even sent any positions. I'm like, I'm behind you, Charlie. I'm on that.
Yeah,
because it's quick. We're impatient.
Yes, well, yeah, exactly. We're impatient and we want solutions. And the problem is, right? The problem is, I read a really interesting article the other day in The Guardian about how because when you get this populism, right, it never solves anything. So like Italy is a very good example, right? Italy have stagnated since the 80s, right?
Yes.
And basically, rather than doing like the difficult, annoying things that had to work, right, that aren't likable, but you have to do them to be able to move on and achieve likable stuff, they opted for populism, right? Yes. Which offered quick fixes, but didn't actually fix anything. Which then means the debt situation gets worse or a situation develops, right? Something goes really wrong, right? Because they're not fixing a problem, which then leads to a really bureaucratic government getting in and going, right, we're going to make hard cuts, we're going to do austerity or whatever it is to fix the issue, right? But that leads to really unlikable, really tough years. So then a different populist leader comes along and says, I will fix all of this. So that leads to more really tough years. And it was saying that basically we yo-yo. If you fall into the trap of populism, you yo-yo between a populist government selling you the answers and then a bureaucratic government having to do the really awful things to fix the problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you maybe agree to the idea of maybe like some unelected council who run the entire country and make sure no matter how unpopular they are?
No, I would never. I do know some people on the like left wing of the political spectrum that believe that democracy is just an ends to a means to an end. Sorry, ends to a mean, a means to an end. But I would definitely say that for me, democracy is an end in itself. It is a goal. It is a thing that I view as important and always needs to be maintained. I'm really excited actually. This year at uni, I'm going to do a course called The Struggle for Democracy and how you have to constantly fight to maintain democracy because politics kind of tends to veer away from democracy because that makes it easier for you. So why you have to fight to ensure it.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see points of that. It does sound quite dull, though, let's be honest. I'm doing like blowing shit up. That's why I'm having fun.
Mine sounds cooler than yours.
Whatever you say, tell yourself. But
looking here again, boring nuclear physics.
Yeah, it's only years of safety and health. I bloody hate safety and health. God, gotta protect the animals. Fuck off. I want to blow shit. Looking here again, families and children's commitment to traditional family as a guiding principle. I think traditional family values are important and stuff like that, but I'm worried about it. I'm worried about what they would state as traditional family values.
Yeah. Absolutely. I believe in traditional family values, but my traditional family values are that I think you should look after your kids, and then when your kids become old, they should look after their parents. Right? I believe that's the core family. You know, not about a man and a woman having 2 kids, you know, not about, you know, it them being your biological kids, not adopted, right? it's not about nuclear families. That's not what makes family special. What makes it special isn't that you have a mum and a dad that stick together. It's that you have people around you who stick together.
Yeah. I've been sort of starting my research, starting scripting for a big, long, deep dive segment for one day in the future on what are traditional family values and deconstructing all of them. And seeing, is it worth deconstructing? Because at the moment, I've been seeing that people deconstruct things for the sake of it. Like a bored kid, they'll just disassemble a pen because they can. And it's like point of the society. We're not taking any new philosophical things. We're not making anything new ideas-wise. We're just going to disassemble what we've already got and see, I want to see how it ticks, and then try and put it back together and see, does it work?
And it works still.
It's a tough thing. I think obviously traditional family values make sense. Of course, things like usually typically there's probably an idea that maybe having a strong feminine presence and a strong masculine presence in the house of a growing child would probably be strong. Good idea for them. Not sure how we can maintain it, and not sure how necessary it is. Because people will get the masculine and feminine role models from anywhere. You can find it from a good teacher, find it from another family member who isn't. It's quite complicated because it's a human mind, which is like literally incomprehensible. I'm sorry, I can't get not a clue on any of that.
You see, I partially agree, I partially disagree, because I've been reading up a lot about masculinity and femininity, and as far as I can tell, the opposite, because as far as I can tell, there is no such thing as either. If you ever think about it, right, masculinity, what people would call masculine traits, they are just good traits, right? It's stuff like loyalty, bravery, courage. Those are just good traits for a human to have. Whether you're feminine or masculine, you should be loyal, you should be brave, and then femininity is normally just the absence of those good traits. It's stuff like weakness and not loyal, like gossiping and stuff like that. It's literally just a way of people trying to feel good about themselves, but with truly unattainable things, because you can never be loyal, right? It's something you're always working towards, so it always keeps you there, right? Because if you say, masculinity is loyalty, right, how do you be a loyal person without constantly having to put effort into it? And it's an unattainable thing. And then the feminine traits are just a lack of loyalty, right? It makes no sense to me. It's literally just describing a good person is masculinity, and then femininity, people are like, I feel like they're just describing a bad person.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. Okay. I think there are many feminine traits that are also admirable. Things like, nurturingness. That is an amazing thing. That's, of course, what a lot of men struggle with. And
True.
Is it, maybe, honestly, I don't know that well. It could be genetic thing, genetic predisposition to all these certain traits and stuff like that. I'm not going to put up sources to sort of, because I'm going to try to operate at the top of my head of feminine traits, and I struggle to think of them. But even things like, even with masculinity, you can justify, with masculinity and femininity, you can justify any aspect of a person for it. I'm sorry, if you're going to say to me, oh yeah, you've got to be loyal to be a man, I'm like, then I think in my head, I'm like, okay, so I've got to follow this leader and do whatever they say because I'm loyal to them. I sound like a soylent cuckold, which they're these masculine types that go, oh, actually, no, you've got to be very independent but loyal at the same time. They've got all these disparate ideas that can be contradictory, and anything can be defined as masculinity, but we need to, that's something we'll have to discuss one day, what truly is.
But why are they either traits? Well, I've worked with kids for a long time. I really enjoy working with kids. I probably want to end up being a teacher, right? That makes me very good at nurturing.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I would, a lot of people would describe me as a very masculine person, right? But my partner, who a lot of people would describe as a very feminine person, is very brave, is very courageous,
Fierce. What sort of stuff?
Fears what?
Fierce.
Fierce. Yes, fierce. I thought you were saying fears. I was like, well, she's afraid of spiders, but
Halloween costume.
But no, like, I just think we're just talking about a good person here. We're just describing good traits to have. Why shouldn't everyone strive for all of them? Everyone should try and be a good parent. You shouldn't be like, well, no, I'm a man, so by default I'm not a good parent. Like, just be a good parent, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my kid, and he's gonna watch me sort of bench press 180. That's
Yeah.
me being strong, and the mother can take care of him when he shits himself. I think it's a balance. Everyone should have all these traits. If we could probably go down, if we were to deep dive into it, I could say there's 120 traits. And if think of it like I'm gonna think of it like a video game, because it's a good way to always describe it for the modern generation, the youngins like us, as like, you know, these little sliders, right? Sliders up and down of all these different things. And I think genetically there is a predisposition for men and women to have different levels of them. But everyone, you know, there is not. I haven't seen a guy who's like, oh yeah, I'm a really good, strong, courageous man, and if I see a child, I'm going to sort of look at it and not do anything about it. He will protect a child, will help them out, maybe not as well. And I'm not sure I can understand. I'm not sure if I'm in full enough depth to understand completely about it.
I'm going to have to like partially agree and partially disagree here.
That's the point of this show.
A lot of that we should do a full conversation on this, because to be honest, I don't fully believe in gender as a thing. And I don't really recognize it in my day-to-day life.
Well, gender was invented in the 60s anyway.
In the 60s?
Yeah,
it was invented like... Yeah, but it was invented back in like when humans were first around.
The term gender, which is the aesthetic behind the stereotypical sex, I want to describe it as.
But I don't really believe in constructs about gender. So then it's difficult if you don't believe in gender to believe in, like, if I don't really believe in the differences between men and women, I don't really believe in the differences between masculinity and femininity. Do you know what I mean? Like, kind of by proxy, I don't believe in them.
I can understand if I went through your belief system, I would then have the same thing. But still, there's always a difference. Last time I checked.
We should do it. A conversation on it, because it's a lot of interesting things. Again,
it's the human mind that's the issue. There's so many the human mind is just played full of contradictions. It's impossible to come to a concise conclusion at the end.
Yeah, and I think it's a trait of humans is to want to group things and organize it to make sense of it, rather than learning each person's individual personality. If we could have one thing that we see about them, that we can then assign them a bunch of attributes so we can categorize them, that makes life easier. Yeah, but I don't think that creates an accurate depiction of the world. But, you know, we like to try.
I have all these preconceived notions about what a woman is, and then I'll do that, and then for each woman I'll then adjust it and go, okay, she's like a stereotypical woman, but these dials are changed, or whatever. We'll say like that.
But we do it to try and make it easier at first. That you're like, oh, okay, I have preconceived notions about what she'll like, what she'll dislike, and I just don't know if they're true.
I can't remember, was Plato's was it Perfect Dog? I think it was, where you have the idea, the concept of a dog. Or that,
yeah,
right. Concept of dog, and each dog is different. Because no two dogs look anywhere close to the same, but we all know in our head that is a dog, and there's always different things that it could be. But then he's like, okay, so there's an ideal form of what a dog is, which is usually this sort of cylindrical object with with 4 legs and a face normally.
Yeah.
But it's very confusing. I'd love us to talk about it more in depth. But should we continue a bit more with our
Yes. Yeah. So why do you think far right sentiment is growing? Do you think it's always been there and the centre is just worse at suppressing it now? Do you think it's growing, and why do you think it's growing?
Well, the ideas have always existed. About a population who agreed with it probably is always the same. But like, yeah, I can understand these sentiments, but I'm going to stick to what I'm doing anyway. You know, I'm going to stick to these political beliefs. But then they probably get like so disenfranchised that they go, well, I haven't got any other option but to vote for this party this way. I can understand. I can sympathise with people like that who's like, I feel like my country's screwed, and the only thing I could do is radical change.
Yeah.
I would never want to describe a person who goes to that point. I wouldn't want to describe them as evil or whatever, because I understand.
No.
They completely understand their logic, their steps of, I want this. This isn't happening. I've tried. Nothing happens again. Trying again. Again. I haven't got any other option but to try for these people over there.
Yeah. I think definitely. It's kind of like what I was saying, that that it's when difficult decisions have to be made, and then there's an easy promise and an easy fix. It sounds a lot nicer, you know.
when tough decisions need to be made, I don't want some. Oh well, I can see the good and bad on both sides. Like, strong decision time to get this done. We need someone who's like, I believe this strongly, and you're not fucking changing it, no matter what you say.
But also no, because so what I was saying was more that rather than it's about what kind of person you want to make the tough decisions, it's that the populist person often won't make them. Rather than making the tough decisions, they'll just go, we'll fix this instead. So rather than dealing like the Conservative government, the last Conservative government, rather than dealing with issues like Brexit, right? Because undeniably, something as big as Brexit had a lot of fallout. We had a lot to manage with. It was going to be tough to handle all that. Yes. Rather than doing that, they came in and they were like, we'll stop the boats and send flights to Rwanda and like gimmicks, rather than actually solving something because it's an easy sell.
Yeah, tackle smaller issues or tackle symptoms of a larger issue as well.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at the last Conservative government, you started off with Cameron, right, who not a fan of because he's a Tory, but he came in and he was like, we need to balance the books, we need to do budget stuff, this is going to be tough, right? And then by the end of it, you had going to spend 2 billion a year to send 300 people to Rwanda. Like how
well, mate Craig's got it's got a van. I can do it for tenner. I can get it. Honestly, it's one government incompetency, always a big problem because the government I don't understand how they're always so inept. These are the smartest people in the entire country, and yet they can't balance a book.
Why would you say politicians are the smartest people in the country?
They're supposed to be. They're supposed to be the smartest in the country. That's what I want a politician to be. I want them to be like the best moral person. I want them to be the strongest, and I want them to be the smartest. All of them. Nope. They're all just toffs.
A lot of them aren't. A lot of them are self-interested and they're sleazy because often, and I've said this, a lot of what makes people who are charismatic are often not very good people because they have to use charisma to make people like them because they're not actually a good person.
Yeah.
And
I'm never
being
going to trust
charismatic is important for politics. So, you know. You get a lot of very charismatic people, but not a lot of very good people.
Silver-tongued devils, all of them.
Yeah.
If someone's job is to make me like them, I am never going to like them, just out of spite. I'm very sorry. Cut to a couple of weeks on, we have like MPs on, like, I think you're a dick. Just because you got elected, I think you're a dick. If you didn't get elected, you weren't likable enough, so therefore you're real.
I went door knocking once, right? And this person, she said she voted for whoever wasn't in power. No matter what. She just voted the other person. Because she was like, the second you step into power, within like 2 years, you're corrupted.
You were corrupted 10 years before that.
But this is about councillors. This was for council elections. And she was saying you need to get them out because they get greedy and corrupted. The greed, the money gets to them. Do you know how much a councillor gets paid a year?
That's 24, isn't it?
13k.
1-3.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Jesus Christ!
Like, it's not a full-time job, let alone like I don't know how you get corrupted by greed on 13k a year. With that argument, me working like in a bar is corrupted by greed.
I can very easily see how they get corrupted because they've got fuck all money, so they're going to take any bribe they can.
What bribes, though? Someone's going to come up to them and be like, do up my street first. Here's a $5. I'm going to slide a tenner across the table.
I've got a pothole. If I give you 20 quid, will you do it for me? Yeah. But it's annoying.
Anyway, let's return. So I just think, kind of to summarize, right, we've been on this for a while, we should probably move on, but I think it's really worrying seeing how much the far right have like grown. It is very concerning. It's very bleak outlook for the global economy if they do get in. And and especially in Germany. A party in Germany that supports ethnic nationalism is very, very concerning.
I can see that. No country Germans do anything.